Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. I am back today to bring you all episode 22. We've got a packed show planned. Tom Brady decided to come out of retirement. The NFL free agency period is open, and there's been massive news all around the league, especially with the Packers. We'll get into that. We've got basketball players in college dancing in the month of March. The month of March is the best. We're going to jump into that too, so let's go ahead and get into it with Tom Brady today. And I said to you all a few weeks ago that I thought Tom Brady was going to stay retired this offseason. Tom Brady, if we think about him compared to anyone else in the league, he's someone that has been more planned, more thought out, and has spent more time preparing for the game of football than anyone else. And now I'm looking for a reason that he came back, and I can really only come up with one for you. There's a lot of time in the day, and we've all seen other great athletes do it. They've got a bit of, let's say, dad guilt. Tom Brady went home, spent 6-7 weeks with his children, and realized there's a lot of time in the day. Brett Favre, in a similar situation, he retired multiple times, still wanted to come back, still thought he could keep playing. There's two things for Tom Brady that stick out for me here. For one, Tom Brady is hyper competitive. There's never been a more competitive athlete. Even after 7 Super Bowls, the only thing Brady is saying is, what is your favorite ring, Tom Brady? The next one. All Brady is thinking about is the next one, and he's one of the most hyper-competitive athletes we have ever seen. And now the second reason is he looked around the NFC, especially right after Russell Wilson left. Russell Wilson, gone. San Francisco is relying on Trey Lance, and we don't know what we're going to get there. We don't know how Trey Lance is going to be. Arizona has talent, but has a lot of noise. Dallas, they're historically underachievers, and I don't like Mike McCarthy at all. And the Packers have a world of problems on their own, especially with the cap space, everything that's happened with Devontae, and the only contender left after that is the Rams. And Tom knows how hard it is to repeat getting to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. In this league and in all other professional leagues, it's nearly impossible to repeat, and Tom sees how easy of a path this could be for him. He saw the landscape and knew the NFC was bad, and his division is even worse. Sean Payton is gone now. The Saints are in despair. Panthers are out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, which we'll get into. Atlanta could get him, but I don't see why Deshaun would want to go to Atlanta or New Orleans. Again, we'll get into that. Tom has taken care of himself as well. This is a third point, unlike any other quarterback we've ever seen. Other guys like Peyton, Marino, Elway, in their last year playing football, they had to retire. They didn't have room to come back. They weren't still one of the better players in shape in the NFL. Guys like Tom and LeBron James are still playing at the top of their league for a reason, and Tom knows he's still at the top, especially athletically. The only surprise in it for me is how detailed and planned Tom Brady is, and he isn't someone that really goes either way on something. It seems like he really might have gotten forced into this. It's weird how it happened. It's hard to say it's over when you're still great at it, guys. He spent 6 to 7 weeks at home. He realized there's a lot of time in the day, and how, after having yet another great season and being in the running for MVP, I'm going to hang it up at 45 years old. The Bucs will still have a chance, especially in the NFC. I just went through that. And Brady knew it was the best decision for him. Now, you guys knew it wasn't going to take me long to get to this, especially after the news from last night. But the Green Bay Packers, a bunch of stuff has been happening. And I'll start with the Aaron Rodgers news. Obviously, everybody knows Aaron Rodgers signed a new contract. It cleared $18 million in cap space for the Packers this offseason. Packers are now clear of debt for this offseason. And the unfortunate part with all that is, while we've gotten players like Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, people like that, we're getting back. We're going to be able to bring back. The one guy, there's been I would say 2 to 3 guys over Aaron Rodgers' career that has had a historical connection with him. James Jones is on the edge, but Jordy Nelson and Davante Adams have been something truly special. Davante Adams said the other day he is not playing under the franchise tag. And initially I was going to come on here and say to you guys, this was like a Calvin Johnson situation from years ago. His contract made it hard for Dallas to sign Dez Bryant, and many other teams had problems with signings at that time. And this is what DeAndre Hopkins' contract has done. Now we see Davante, he just got $28.25 million. He was traded away from the Green Bay Packers for a first and second round pick in this year's draft. And the Packers are now left with Allen Lazard as their only receiver signed on the roster. Well, they have Amari Rodgers and Randall Cobb, but reliable, not old, not young, been there before, reliable receiver. You understand what I'm saying? That's all they have left. Now, the Packers reportedly offered Davante Adams the same contract the Raiders did, and Davante Adams said no. Aaron Rodgers knew when he made his decision about signing his contract, where he was going to play this offseason, that Davante was not going to be with him. And he still signed the deal. He still thought the Packers were the best place for him to win. And I've seen a lot of questions. Why did Davante not stay with the Packers? Why is he going to the hardest division in football? The AFC West has gotten Russell Wilson, Khalil Mack, and now Davante Adams in just the span of a week. It's been insane. Why is he choosing to go there? I think this comes down to Packers quarterbacks have more. We see with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, they're loved by Green Bay. They're loved by the fans. They get bonded with Green Bay. Rodgers knows how bad it was going to hurt his legacy if he left Green Bay, especially if he didn't go win anywhere. Green Bay, what he's going to have now, if Aaron Rodgers plays out the rest of his contract, he is the longest tenured player with one team in NFL history. It'd be 20 years with the Packers. Rodgers knows that, and he wants that left on his career. But Davante Adams, just like Aaron Rodgers, just like many other Packers stars in the past, has been able to now see the writing on the wall. Davante Adams is a superstar in this league, the best receiver in my opinion. And he is not allowed to give any input to decisions with the Packers. And I know this is a big thing, and everybody's probably sitting there like, oh, they just gave Aaron Rodgers ability to have some decisions. Well, Davante's also an elite guy. And if you go look at the Rams, you see Cooper Kupp getting on FaceTime calls with OBJ and Matthew Stafford actively recruiting. And guess what? The Rams are just going out and finding pieces that are hungry, like Allen Robinson this offseason, and are wanting to win one this year. They're already trying to run it back, and they're not caring about the cap. But the Packers have decided, like they have for years, to play teeter-totter between championship and building for the future. So they always have a team that makes money and is always successful, but they're not going to sell out so they don't have those bad years. Davante saw the writing on the wall. He knew he was going to get similar treatment and wanted to see what the grass was like on the other side of the field. See if it was greener. Which honestly, with Davante's caliber, with Davante's play style, he's going to ball in the AFC West, especially with him and Derek Carr being former teammates at Fresno State. I think that's going to be a great connection. I'm glad this is what Davante wanted, and I'm a fan of the players. I'm a fan of player movement, and I'm a fan of players getting paid. So I'm happy for Davante. This is what he wanted. Devontae is a guy who deserves anything he wants in the league already. He's done a lot for the league. He's done a lot for receivers. He's one of the best. Now, on the Packers side of things, they're going to have to build through the draft. I'm hoping that the Packers go out and trade some of these picks to get an elite receiver, something like that. Something needs to happen in the offseason, because if we are relying on the draft, it is going to be another bust year. And the following year, Rodgers has an even bigger cap hit. He cleared $18 million this offseason, so the Packers could make moves so we could keep Devontae, so things like that could happen. And now that's not happening, and a problem's occurring. I'm going to transition over now to another side of the NFC North with the Minnesota Vikings. And I've had a couple people call me. They've said, what's going on with Minnesota? Why are they re-signing Kirk? No one likes Kirk. What are they doing? And here's what I think the Minnesota Vikings are doing here. They are recognizing how weak this year's QB market and draft class is. Unless they get Deshaun Watson, which Minnesota is not in the running for, they knew they were not going to get better than Kirk Cousins. And the way I see this working out for Minnesota, especially with the new coach being brought in, the way I see this going is a similar way to Andy Reid and the Chiefs went about Alex Smith years ago. When Reid inherited the Chiefs, they didn't have QB. They didn't have any structure put into place. So Andy Reid, he was already a legendary head coach. He already proved his worth with Philadelphia. Andy Reid went out and got Alex Smith to stay there with him for 5 years, to develop the culture, to get guys through the draft who were young, who would be committed to Kansas City, who would come back and play again for them. They built through the draft. They did the salary cap the right way, and they waited until they found a diamond in the rough, and they traded up to the 10th overall pick to select Patrick Mahomes, let him sit behind Alex Smith for a year, and within 12 months' time, they knew they had something special. What the Chiefs chose to do was the best path for them then, and I think it's the best path for the Minnesota Vikings now. Kirk Cousins is a guy who is a teacher and is a leader, in my opinion. And I want you all to remember, if Kyle Shanahan can get to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G, and Sean McVay can get to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, then Sean O'Connell, the Vikings' new head coach, who is just the Rams' offensive coordinator, can get Kirk Cousins to a Super Bowl. Especially with Devontae Adams out of this division, like we were just talking about, the NFC North is getting weaker. Offensive-minded head coaches and younger head coaches are becoming the new generation, and they're becoming the new fad, the new trend. Don't be surprised if Sean O'Connell is the new next hot offensive guy. It could happen. Look at Kyle Shanahan. Look at Sean McVay. Look at what they did. Minnesota has a very talented roster. I think Mike Zimmer was a little outdated. He was a defensive head coach. Offensive head coaches are starting to rule this league. And I think this could work out for Minnesota 5 years from now more than fans are thinking it could. Yeah, I'm going to transfer on to a topic today that is going to cover a good part of the rest of this episode, because I got to talk about him in scale with a couple of teams. Deshaun Watson, as you guys know, the market has been going crazy for this guy. His charges have been cleared as of recently. His criminal charges, the civil charges are still in court. We don't know about those yet, but the criminal charges are what everybody was worried about. Meetings have been taking place. Offers are in. There are multiple trades that are already approved by the Houston Texans. All that has to be done now is Deshaun Watson to meet with a select few of teams, which we are going to go through. We've got the Panthers. We've got the Browns. We're going to talk about the Falcons a little bit. We're going to talk about the Saints a little bit. And what's going to happen with Deshaun. These teams have had private investigators on Deshaun and on this case since it began, because they knew how big of a deal this would be in the offseason. And I'll say this before I start getting into these teams. I would not hold it back that it could not be one of these teams. Deshaun could very well get traded elsewhere. There's older GMs like Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi is someone I trust a lot for information. He said he expected it to come within the next 12 to 36 hours, and that was yesterday evening, so it could come anytime. We have sports analysts saying, however, it's going to be 1 to 2 months. We don't know. He's going to meet with more teams, so we really don't know. But the first team I'm going to get into with Deshaun Watson and their team culture as a whole is the Carolina Panthers. Now, I'm going to answer this question for them and the Browns. Why are the Panthers going after Deshaun Watson? And I think this boils down to one thing. Tom Brady coming out of retirement. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers would want Deshaun Watson either way. Deshaun Watson went to Clemson. He is Carolina boy. Obviously, they'd want him. But with Tom Brady coming back now, and the Carolina Panthers being in the same division as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to have to play them twice a year, Carolina knows they need an elite quarterback if they want to stay in this thing. Now, since in the last 24 to 48 hours, there's been reports coming out that the Panthers and Cleveland Browns are out of it. Panthers, I heard, were still on the edge. Browns were for sure out. Panthers, in my opinion, if I were them, I would offer 4 to 5 first-round draft picks in order to keep McCaffrey. You guys are saying 4 to 5 first-round draft picks for a player? That's wild. And I know they might be out of it, but just hear me on this, and I think this stands for a lot of teams around the NFL. If your team is already on the bubble, if they're on the verge, let's take Minnesota Vikings, for example. Minnesota Vikings go out trade for Deshaun Watson. They have Dalvin Cook. Panthers, for example, they have Christian McCaffrey. Both teams have elite running backs. Teams have decent wide receiver core. Definitely Minnesota has a better wide receiving core with Justin Jefferson there. If Minnesota or the Panthers can go to their owner and say, let me sell out next 4 to 5 first-round draft picks. It would probably be 4. Let me go give away our next 4 first-round draft picks. With Deshaun Watson and Christian McCaffrey, with Deshaun Watson and Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. There's a dozen examples of this. I promise you we will make the playoffs for the next 4 years. Let me ask you something again. If you make the playoffs, you don't have a top 20 pick. So is the first round pick really as important? Those top 10, top 15 picks are where the gold mine is and where the really best players are that are going to make an immediate difference for you. Panthers say, okay, if we get Deshaun Watson, we can trade away our next 4 first-round draft picks, and we give those picks up in order to make the playoffs for the next 4 seasons and begin to establish a culture in Carolina. Matt Rule is on the hot seat. If I were him, I would, oh my goodness, you have to try so hard for the Carolina Panthers. You have to try so hard if you're the Carolina Panthers for Deshaun Watson. Matt Rule's on the hot seat. You're trying to develop a culture. You've been in a QB carousel ever since Cam Newton began to get hurt. They have to make an effort here. Now, transferring on to my next team for today, I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns for a couple minutes, and then we're going to get into March Madness a little bit. We're just going to jump around. Cleveland Browns, same thing with the Panthers, same thing with Vikings. I've had a couple people call. They've gone, what's going on with Cleveland? And I'm going to tell you guys what's going on with Cleveland. They just pulled the most Cleveland Brown, city of Cleveland, state of Ohio thing ever. I'll start with the reports that they wanted Deshaun Watson, and they are now out of the race. What Cleveland was trying to do there was put into place a set of standards. They're trying to develop standards, something the city of Cleveland has not had, minus LeBron James. They have never had a set of standards. The same thing the Rams did, even though Jared Goff got them to a Super Bowl, they still decided to move off him. The GM, Andrew Berry, was attempting to install a set of standards, and Deshaun Watson is how you begin with that. They already had an elite team at one point last year. They had a top 3 defense and top 3 run game when healthy. That is a recipe to go to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. And the Browns did not make the playoffs. The writing is on the wall now with Baker. OBJ didn't work out. Austin Hooper's numbers have plummeted since being traded from Atlanta. And Jarvis Landry just was able to escape town. What do you do when your restaurant isn't that good? You hire a better chef. What do you do when your football team's good but could be better? You go get a better quarterback. That's what the Browns were trying to do. They're trying to put in a set of standards. Now, what the Browns didn't account for is Baker making the most logical decision he has ever made in his career. I'm going to go to Baker's defense here. I think Baker is a franchise QB. He may piss me off. He may be average, but he is still a starting QB in this league. But the reason the Browns tried to do this was to develop standards, and they looked at the AFC. And there's an argument to be made that there's 10 better QBs in the league than Baker. And no, just in the AFC than Baker. And you ready? Mahomes, Wilson, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Watson, Carr, Tannehill, and Trevor Lawrence. Even though Trevor Lawrence is after just his first year, I still think he's better than Baker Mayfield and has more upside. That's just in his conference at his position. I never thought Deshaun Watson would have picked Cleveland, but now what Cleveland did with doing this whole public stuff, social media stuff, going after Deshaun real publicly, they have ruined their relationship with Baker Mayfield. And now there is an absolutely massive rip. And Baker Mayfield, we're getting back to this, like I said, just made the smartest move he has in his entire career. He released an incredibly heartfelt message via Instagram and Twitter. Instead of getting upset with Cleveland like the Browns wanted and expected him to do with Baker's type of personality, Baker kept it bottled. He stayed calm, and Baker kept it calm. He stayed calm. He put out a heartfelt Instagram message that said he gave everything he had to this organization, that he put his body out there physically, he put his mind out there physically, mentally, and now he has shot the shot right back at the Browns. The Browns knew that there's still fans in Cleveland, and there's Cleveland media that still have number 6's side. And instead of him battling back and ruining his image even more, he says, I've given you everything I have, Cleveland. I'm sorry, I did not do enough. I tried my hardest. I commend the Browns. They tried to set up standards with Deshaun, but ended up pulling another Browns move. Baker Mayfield didn't get cocky. He didn't get frustrated. He went the other way, and he took the high ground for maybe the first time in his career. He requested a trade, and now the Browns won't accommodate that trade. And now Baker Mayfield will either come back this season a Brown and be cheered for louder than he ever has when he runs out of that tunnel week 1, because he's given everything he has emotionally and physically. Or he just sent a message to the rest of the league that you can rely on him, you can trust him, and he will give it his all. And his season told you that. He battled through injuries. He tried, and I can't believe I am defending Baker Mayfield after everything. But I watched many analysts come to his defense after I was against him. And I heard the analysts, and I heard what they had to say. And it really made sense. This is one of the smartest things from a PR perspective Baker could have ever done. He's now on the good side of things. He could be looking up maturity-wise, which could help with him being a leader, could help with his quarterback play. And he put the Browns back in a bad position. Nothing ever comes out in this league unless someone wants them to come out. Any organization. I listened to Colin Cowherd talk about this. He was like, I know stuff happening with my company a year from now. Sometimes we decide to leak those things. Sometimes we don't. If we decide we don't want to leak those things, they don't come out. The Browns wanted those bad stories to come out because they were trying to set Baker up. And Baker made the ultimate checkmate move, and I loved it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump in to March Madness today. As you guys know, we've got the day 2 that just started about 45 minutes ago from when I'm filming this. The first round, day 1, it has already been jam-packed. It has been so much fun with all the madness that's happened. We watched Iowa and their atrocious defense get not spanked, but did not look pretty and ended up losing. Busted many people's brackets. They had Iowa going far. I had Iowa going to the Elite 8 this year. Their defense, if you go and look at it, I overlooked this. I didn't think it'd be as big of a deal, but obviously it is. Here's a stat for you guys. 72 out of 76 teams in the KenPom era. If you guys don't know, the KenPom era started in 2001. 72 out of the 76 teams to make the Final Four in the KenPom era have a top 50 defense. Iowa's was ranked 77th. And that's a stat you got to see in March. March, I think, boils down to defense and free throws more than any other time. With free throws especially, look at how many times players are getting fouled in the final 2 minutes. Players' seasons are on the line. We had Kentucky last night lose to St. Peter's. God, I did not expect that. But when you have teams like this, me and my dad were talking about this a couple days ago, and he's been talking about this for years. When you have teams like St. Peter's, who have seniors who have been together for years, playing teams like Kentucky. Kentucky is more experienced this year, and they have more age, but they're still younger. When you have St. Peter's, team with seniors, playing a team like Kentucky, who thinks they can go in there and steamroll them and just go on to the next round, that is not going to work. The NCAA has changed over the last 15 or 20 years. It used to be that only major schools like UNC and Duke would make the Final Four and the championship because they had legendary players who came there and stayed there for 4 years and developed. And right after they left, there was another group of sophomore and juniors right there to take their spots at the helm. Now, it's different. It's the one-and-done era. It has led to teams like Loyola Chicago being able to make magnificent runs and capture all of us. I can't wait to watch Loyola today. I have them winning a couple rounds. I think I have them going out in the Sweet 16 this year. So I'm not getting on the Loyola hype as much as other years. You guys know, I talked about it the other week. I am a Duke fan. Currently, I've got them going out in the Elite 8, I believe. Either Elite 8 or Sweet 16. I have a couple different brackets. One of them's Texas Tech they're losing to. One of them's Gonzaga. I think the team's going to be inspired. They have 6 guys who could go in the first round of the NBA draft. They are truly, truly special on offense, but their defense, just like Iowa's, is atrocious, and I worry about Duke's defense. They were exposed against UNC. They were exposed against Virginia Tech. I understand they're battling for Coach K, and this is his last year. But it's March, and if you don't have the talent and you don't have that special thing there and you're just a bunch of freshmen, it's not going to be that great for you. March storylines are the biggest thing, and I think Coach K's storyline is one of the best of them all. But I don't know if that's going to be able to will Duke into the Final Four. But I'll tell you guys who I think will be able to will themselves into the Final Four this year. My Final Four is UCLA, Texas Tech, Villanova, and Kansas. I'll start with UCLA. UCLA, I think, is going to get back to the Final Four yet again this year. If you guys remember last year, they had to do a play-in game. They were the 11 seed, and they went on a magical run. I had UCLA last year making the Final Four. It was wild being able to ride my bracket that long with an 11 seed. And Jose, he's back for another year. A bunch of their players are back for another year, and they're back for blood. They're a squad with more experience who's now made a Final Four run and know what the tournament is like. And I just like the way UCLA plays basketball. I hope they're able to make the Final Four again, and they'll be playing Texas Tech if they do. Texas Tech has one of the best defensive teams in the nation and best free throw shooting teams in the nation. Like I was just talking about to you guys, defensive free throws, it's one of the biggest things in the NCAA, especially in March. It gets elevated to another level. Villanova, going to be my third team in March. Honestly, I was seeing who I wanted to come out. I do not think Arizona can come out of that side of the bracket. I don't like their strength of competition this year. People are high on Arizona. I just don't. I think Villanova's a better team. And if Villanova's not, then I definitely think Tennessee is after watching them yesterday. I understand Tennessee was playing a 14 seed. That did not matter. Tennessee put on a showcase. It was extremely impressive. And the last team I think Villanova, or Tennessee, frankly, is going to be playing is Kansas. I like the Jayhawks this year. They've got a bunch of experience. And I think Kansas could be the team that ends up winning it all this season. You guys might be saying, wow, you aren't going to put Gonzaga in there. Gonzaga is a team that has been known to choke. Everybody's been talking about it. The last 5 years, they've been getting great seedings. They've been getting love from the tournament. And what do? They choke. I think Texas Tech, with their defense, is going to be able to shut down Gonzaga. We have seen teams recently, like St. Mary's, they were able to shut down Gonzaga. We saw Duke, who was an overly offensive team with not even a defense, be able to beat Gonzaga. I don't think Texas Tech is a good matchup. And I think if Duke played them again, Duke could potentially beat them. In the championship coming out of the Final Four, I like UCLA versus Villanova. I just have a gut feeling here, to be honest with you guys. UCLA is coming back for their revenge this season. They're going to win the NCAA Men's Basketball Division I Championship 74-69. It's going to be a great game. Hopefully my bracket doesn't already get busted day one. I know a lot of your guys' is. Mine, majority, I lost like 7 or 8 games yesterday. Not a good day for day one. Day 2 is going to be a big redemption day. Everybody, go turn on college basketball. It's a huge weekend. Stop listening to me. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. This weekend is going to be so exciting. We got the second round. We're going to have more NFL free agency news. And over the next week, I expect to just have a ton of topics just like this week. I can't wait for it. Don't forget to come back here next Friday when we recap all of it on episode 23. Peace.